Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, joined by my co-host, Jacob Boyers. Jacob, sky's falling. We said this on Tuesday, if this was going to be the result of this game. Kentucky obviously lost to Missouri, 73-68. And what was... I don't know. I was speechless for the first 30 minutes after this game, trying to think of a recap to say. I texted you during the game. There was parts where it looked like this team was finding a little bit of something. And then as soon as I said that, man, we don't score for the last 4.5 minutes of the game. Obviously, Missouri comes back from down 8. And you have a bad loss at home.
15-2 run in the final 4.5 minutes or whatever it was. That alone, absolutely unacceptable. I'm with you, Cam. I don't really know where to go here. I told you I picked the Cats on Tuesday or whenever we recorded, just because I said I can't imagine having to come on here Thursday night and talk about a loss, but here we are. I think it was obviously a multitude of things. I thought really, really, really poor coaching down the stretch, from the aspect of different lineups at times, different guys being on the floor. I know we'll kind of get into the individual things, but the second Kentucky went up 8, every time down the floor, you saw Pope, give the hand up, telling them pump the brakes, slow down. Me and you were texting earlier, we're finally getting out and running and, making some plays. And that's kind of where the 11-0, the kind of 8-0 run there to start the second half after the long Otega 3 that counted as an 11-0 run between the two halves. And when you went up 8 there with 4.5 minutes, it was all from kind of pushing the ball. And it really reminded me so much of Cal. Cal would always do that. You kind of get a lead and then you just suck the air out of the ball and hope that you kind of hold on. This team is clearly not good enough offensively in the half court, and it's a critique we've had obviously all season, but you hear Pope say it after the game, and it really kind of frustrated me, just from the simple fact of, again, I watched him put his hand up every single time down the floor to tell these guys to slow up and, quote unquote, set up the offense and wait to get into it. And it was just extremely frustrating. I thought there's a multitude of things. I guess we can go more in depth, but extremely frustrating.
Yeah, I don't even know where to go after just talking about how frustrating it was. I mean, so many different things in this game really rubbed me the wrong way, and 97% of it is coaching. And you get to a point where it's just we're not to this point yet, but it's kind of like how we had with all of our football conversations. It's yeah, you can paint a picture in where you think this team can get better, but do you trust the staff to do it? And they've almost shown me enough this year that, at least with this group of guys that they have, I can't trust them to go out there and put the right lineup on the floor, because that final 4.5 minutes, Jake, was there ever, at any point during that time, was there the lineup on the floor that you wanted, or the lineup that got you that 11-0 run? At no point were those guys out there. We're subbing offense for defense at the end of the game, and then you're not putting in your best rebounders. You have a freshman Malachi Moreno out there instead of a sophomore Jaden Quaintance or Mo Diabate, guys who you can expect to get those rebounds in situations like that. You're subbing in guys like Denzel Aberdeen to play defense. We subbed Denzel Aberdeen playing on defense, Jake, and I just looked at the stop percentage for Denzel Aberdeen. It's worse than last week.
That's hard. It's hard to
Jake,
imagine.
You want to know what it is?
Well, it was 10 last week, so I'm going to guess it's a single-digit number.
0.
Yeah.
0.
And you know what's kind of crazy about it is, I actually didn't think Pope coached that bad of a game throughout until that final 4.5 minutes. We saw the lineup that we all begged for. He started low in Quaintance. The guys, I thought, just really in the first half didn't play well. which obviously, can happen. And then you get the Ortega heave from 3/4 court that kind of really sparks some momentum, and you carry that into the second half. And, me and you were texting. I think at one point you're like, I know it's not pretty, but like, I feel like these guys are actually like, we're playing pretty well. And I agreed with you. And I think Pope, to an extent, like, was playing the lineups we wanted to see. It got to a point where Mo was between arguing with everybody and his inability to catch the basketball. Like, you sit him. I understood that in the situation. But yeah, the 4.5 minutes down the stretch were so bad that it's going to just get chalked up as like this horrific coaching performance. And it was. I mean, you obviously had some turnovers. You had guys that didn't execute, but I mean, 3 of those turnovers were Malachi Moreno and Brandon Garrison. Like, no offense, I know they made some plays here and there, but with 4.5 minutes to go in a game that essentially might define your season, like, those aren't the guys I want on the floor. I'll take Jaden Quayton's not playing very well because, again, like we talked about Tuesday, like, there's still a world where he's so good. I don't care how bad he plays for the first 35 minutes. The last 5, he could just enter another level and take it over. That's what top 10 picks do. And you didn't give him that chance. You didn't have him out there for a rebound where guy misses the front end of a 1-on-1. You're right in that game. You're down a point. You grab that rebound. Who knows what happens? I text you, I was pleasantly surprised with how short the lineup was. It felt like all night. And then with 2 minutes to go, you're bringing guys in that have barely played. Colin Chandler, Denzel Aberdeen's been pitiful. You bring him in. And then when you get the ball back after the stop, there's like no timeout to get your best offensive lineup in. You just continue to let Denzel be out there. And it was pretty inexcusable for that 4.5 minutes. And like I said, I think Pope actually coached a pretty solid game to an extent until that last 4.5 minutes, but that was so bad. And I think, like we obviously both said, like, it cost you the game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, just putting the last 4 minutes, you already mentioned it, a 15-2 run over the last 4:24, an 8-0 run over the last minute and 14, and we didn't score a single point over the last 2 minutes and 17 seconds of this game. And that's with, like, you were actually getting some defensive stops in there as well. It's not like they were
Yeah.
just like getting out in transition. But the thing that you and I have talked about, like, beat to death all season long is, like, when is this team good offensively? It's when they're pushing the ball and getting out and going. Like,
Yep.
I get you have an 8-point lead, but an 8-point lead with 4 minutes left is not that much. You're talking about that. I mean, that's 3 stops and 3 scores, and you're losing the game. I don't understand where. I think you saw how much this game, I think, meant to Pope, and like how much he realized this was a like pivotal game in the way this season can either start to build some, positive reinforcement going forward, or if it was going to be, the bombshell that really takes this team down. And he crumbled under pressure just like the rest of the team did. I mean, you saw. I mean, everybody's pointing fingers at everybody right now. Like, you listen to the post game, Cam Williams throws Jalen Lowe under the bus. Mark Pope does the same. Obviously, Diabate's pointing fingers every which way. They can say whatever they want to me or anyone else. You can't convince me this team likes each other. Or this team
Oh,
has
no shot.
any sort of cohesion. And that's kind of like the thing that I would thought, if you would have told me, like, stop the game with 5 minutes left, which obviously you can't. I was going to come in here and say, this wasn't pretty. It wasn't, a game in which you're going to take a lot from it. But I thought the team played well and started to grow a little bit together, started to find ways in which, they can all work off of each other. And a lot of that was because the lineups were shortened during certain periods
Yeah.
of that stretch, and you were allowed to play those guys all together. And then the final 5 minutes happens, and you're rotating guys in that haven't played much in like the second half at all. Colin Chandler's, yes, he ends up, like, I don't even know how much credit I give him for that steal, because first off, he got beat deep anyways, and then he just wildly throws his arm up in the air and just knocks it down. Having him out there for that situation, but then also taking him out on the offensive end
Yeah.
when you need a three in that time doesn't make any sense to me. And Jalen, man, after having that game he had last week, I don't know what this was. Like, what start to finish, I don't think Jalen Lowe was good, and it all was summed up by that final possession. Like what's going through your head at that
Well,
spot? Like I know they said like what was the plan was like get into the paint and then kick it out to Cam Williams. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, you get into the paint, they're probably just gonna let you score because you're down three. But you gotta try and run some sort of play, not a
yeah.
double
Well,
clutched three when you're a 29% 3-point shooter anyways.
I mean, I think, I mean, there was still what, like 8 seconds at that point. Like, if you get into the paint and they let you score, just lay it up, right?
Yeah.
Like Missouri had shown the ability to miss some free throws down the stretch. So, I mean, with anywhere from 7 to 8 seconds left by the time you score, I think you got enough time to even take the two there and cut it to one and then set it up again. You had another timeout. That was, I think, kind of the frustrating part is there were so many opportunities, especially there late, just with the little things that happen where you had timeouts to call and get the right guys on the floor. It's not like you had, one, and after you get a stop, you got to leave Denzel in because you want to save the timeout for, the situation that happened later. Like we had, I think, 3 timeouts with a minute to go in the game. Like you could have used those to put the lineups you wanted. As far as Jalen, I agree with you. He played obviously really bad down the stretch, had bad turnovers, took a couple bad shots. The step back threes, obviously, not what you want to draw up in that situation. When did he look the best? It was when he was playing fast and getting out, and he was getting in the paint in transition, kicking out. He had a couple really nice kickouts to Cam Williams. Had one that, kicked to Cam, who threw it to BG, who hit Owe to put us up 8 there in that corner three. Like, that's where he looked the best. Every single time that he comes up the floor and you tell him to stop and wait, like, you're just throwing it all out of rhythm. And that's what I keep going back to that. That was my honest to God, the lineups and everything were pretty poor down the stretch, but like that was the thing that I think kills me the most. Like you had a chance to just keep your foot on the gas and put that game away. When Kentucky went up 8 and Missouri called the timeout, I was not just thinking in my head they're going to win the game. I was thinking they were going to find a way to, steal a cover out of this and win by, 13. You had that opportunity in front of you and you just completely took your foot off the gas. And you mentioned, Pope looked tight or nervous and realized the importance of it. And I agree. And it's so weird that like all these like in-game things are coming back to everything we said about Cal, who like we all thought Pope was obviously a much more superior in-game coach. That was his strength over Cal. But everything we're saying, I feel like we said the last 5 years about Cal, taking the air out of the ball, being too tight and, almost carrying too much and projecting that onto your players. That's now what we're seeing Pope do. The poor lineups, not playing the right guys at the right times. Like this is all the same conversations we had from 2020 to 25, when he got out of here. And it's just like to kind of be redoing this with a guy that's supposed to be much more, much better in game. And then like we're not seeing that and you're not recruiting, you're not really doing anything. And it's like we're just spinning our wheels and, uh, Pope, I, if you told me like when he was hired or even after last year when I thought they had success, like there's a world where he doesn't work here, like I could have believed it. But what like I just can't believe it's just how bad some of the in-game coaching's been this season. Like, if you told me he didn't succeed because he can't recruit high level players or, little things here and there, but like I would not expect just constant every game getting off and being like the in-game coaching was pathetic. And I know I've talked a long time, so I'll let you go here real quick. But one other thing I got to point out was just how funny it was in the first half. The first time I was about to text Joe, but Missouri goes to zone for the first time, and Tom Hart goes, Kentucky's prepared for this. And we watched 3 guys pass the ball around the perimeter. Not a single guy moved, not a single pass inside, not anything. Just 3 guys top of the key, pass, 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 pass. Cam Williams, long 3 with 15 seconds left on the shot clock. Like, I thought that like just summed up everything perfectly.
It it really did. And you sent me earlier like the final minute of possessions, and I respectfully told you to keep that to yourself. I didn't want to
It
see it.
was gross.
I, like there's not often where like I watch a game and I'm kind of just speechless and don't really I can't formulate what to say about the game. This was one of them. And dude, I could not sleep. Like I really couldn't. Like I know that sounds like it just sounds like
I
ridiculous.
was
Dude,
there with you.
I was up until 3 a.m. Like I could not sleep. I'm trying to find like anything I can that's going to put me to sleep after this. But you're just sitting there and you're thinking like what and thing about bad teams, Jake, what do bad teams always do? They always find a new way to lose. And that's
Yeah.
what Kentucky is doing. It feels like game in, game out right now. They're finding new ways to lose. And granted, like this one, I put this one in the North Carolina game about in the same situation. You really just struggled down the stretch, couldn't get any offense going. Kind of reminded me a little bit of that game. Also,
Yeah.
the thing that really kind of concerned me in this one was anytime Missouri called a timeout, their inbounds plays were terrific and they were scoring on almost every one of them. Jake, when's the last time we've called a timeout to have an inbounds play set where we've had like a good play out of bounds? Like
Yeah.
I can't think of one, at least out of recent memory, that has been meaningful. I'm not saying he hasn't had one like in the St. John's game or even in that Bama game where we started getting blown out, but one that's meaningful. And it's really starting to get me to picture like to go big picture with a lot of this. And I know we keep telling ourselves like, hey, this is a game per game thing. Don't take it so big. Don't make each game out to be its own thing. But the motion that I keep hearing of like how great of a job Mark Pope did last year, like I think we need to give some respect to the guys he had on that team. Like look at what Amari Williams is doing in the G League right now. Like this dude is constantly putting up like 30 and 15. He just had a triple double a couple weeks ago. Kobe Bryant was, if not the best shooter in college basketball, one of the top three. You had an elite defensive point guard. You had a 50, 40, 90 guy coming off the bench. You had Andrew Carr, who's also doing well in the G League right now. I'm not saying he didn't do a bad job, but I keep hearing this like story that he just got a bunch of ragtag guys who didn't deserve to be at that spot and he put them all together and it was all Mark Pope's brilliance that got them to the Sweet 16. I couldn't disagree more. I think there was 4 or 5 games last season that we lost that we had no business losing. That Ohio State game. In what
Yeah.
world did we lose that Ohio State game? That Ole Miss game where we got ran off the floor. There are so many games last year that you look at and you're like, man, we just got outcoached. And now seeing it with guys who aren't as like developed and seeing guys who aren't as bought into the program, seeing guys who quite frankly just don't give a shit a lot of times. Like you look at Mohamed Diabate, you look at Denzel Aberdeen. Like, dude, if I could pay them to go back to Alabama and Florida right now, there's a chance I would, especially Denzel. I
Yeah.
mean, granted, Mo, he's just got to find a way to lead this team because the way he's doing it right now is not working. And it just has me thinking big picture wise that I'm not calling for the guy's job. It's 15 games into the season, but you're 9-6. Nothing that you've put out there has worked. Nothing is getting better. Like you're not getting better on the defensive end. You're not getting better offensively. You're not bringing in recruits. Like there is no positive signs right now. And it's time to hit the panic alarms, I think. I mean, it really is.
No, I'm there with you, and I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and just debate you on last year. I don't think that's anything productive. I'm with you. Like I don't think Pope was insane last year, but for a number of reasons, I would say last year was a pretty big success, and I thought he did a really good job. With that being said, as far as the panic alarms, I'm right there with you. Again, I never thought I would be in this situation coming into this season, but to an extent, like you said, it's in part because of when you're looking at the future, you don't know what players are going to be here next year. You're going to have to load up in the portal again. Are you going to load up with the right ones like you did year one potentially to, have a Sweet
Yeah.
16 level team, or are we going to be back in this situation? So it's by far the biggest panic probably since, the Gillespie, thing, but I
And
just
before you change topics here, can I ask you one question?
Mhm.
Like when you look at what you think Pope can do, like last year, everything fit to the style and brand of basketball that he wants to play. And you had
Yep.
elite guys at that. Like you had that point forward. Like we're not getting another Amari Williams. Like I don't think
No,
people
it's
realize
not
how
too. There's not too many of those in
I don't think
basketball.
people realized how rare that was last year to have him. Same thing with Kobe Brea. You're not getting those very often either. Does it concern you that maybe like the Sweet 16 level is where, like with his style brand of basketball, where you're playing 28 minutes a game, you don't have that star power, you're not bringing in elite level recruits. Does it concern you that that's like the ceiling with a Mark Pope led Kentucky team?
I don't know. Like I think that's a little deeper because like again, we still don't really know like how much of not landing these top level recruits is Pope and like how much is the JMI thing, right? Like maybe you have your JMI deals figured out and you got Tyron Stokes and Collins coming in next year and like we're saying, hey, next year he's going to have elite level players. And, you look at it, I think you had really, really good players last year. I agree with you on like the narrative of like he took all these scrappy underdogs and like turned them into players. Like you also had like a lot of guys that could do a lot of different things, right? So like you had an elite level on ball defender in Lamont Butler. You had obviously a very elite shooter. You had the elite passing center and rebounder in Amari. But like I think like that team was still obviously like missing a star and
Mhm.
it's so hard to say like okay Pope can't recruit, Pope's whiffing this and that when you hear that Collins was ready to come and JMI wouldn't reword how they weren't the deal. You kind of hear the same thing with Tyron Stokes. Like I feel like we would think about this completely different if we had those two guys coming in next year and then you knew you had to go get four or five like shooters and decent level players. Like even like just taking this year, if you had like a guy like Tyron Stokes on this team, like this whole team looks completely different because these guys are all being role players, which essentially you probably need them to be and not your stars. So I I don't know, but like if you're telling me the JMI thing's not going to work out, and like this is what we're seeing from Pope, then yeah, there's a very real chance like Sweet 16's the top of the mountain.
Yeah, the part that concerns me is like when I watch Tyron Stokes and I watch Christian Collins and Caleb Holt and guys like this, I'm thinking about like putting them in and like onto this team. I don't know how much that moves the needle. Like I get that they're going to be the best player on this team, but just from a team like building and just developing into what Mark Pope wants to play, like I don't think there are those guys. At least that I'm not sitting here acting like I'm grinding high school tape here, but I haven't seen a guy that's in this next year's class that I'm like, oh yeah, that's a Mark Pope we got to get because I don't see Tyron Stokes filling out that role of a pure shooter. I don't see Christian Collins doing that. I don't see Caleb Holt doing that. And I don't see any of them being a big to facilitate like Amari Williams did. And I think those are the two staples that you need in what Pope wants to do. And it seems like we're doing everything but recruiting to those two things that we need.
Yeah, and it could like honestly just be like this year was so bad on like roster construction. Like I don't know how you feel about it. I think this team again, I'm not saying like they're going to be competing for a final four, but like if you just would have gotten like Wilkerson over Denzel. Like imagine how much
So
better we would
there's
we
not
would
many people you could tell me in the NCAA over Denzel that I wouldn't.
I know,
Even if
but like I'm
even if
like
I just
I'm
had whatever money he made, even if you just like put that across the Lexington streets and just put it to the community, I'd rather have it done that way.
but like again, like that's the thing with NIL here is like we don't really know who's to blame for like losing out on Lamar Wilkerson. Was it, Pope couldn't convince him to come because the guy didn't want to be another dude? Like I know that's kind of what he said, but like, or was it that Indiana was able to get him an extra 500 grand to $1 million and we just don't know. But like I think like just that one simple addition, and I know that's like a big what if game to play, but like I think this team would be significantly better. And you're probably winning not all these games. You probably still don't beat Alabama. You probably, you know, still lose to Gonzaga or whoever else, but like they would not be near this bad, and like we wouldn't be sitting here talking about like how this team's not going to make the tournament. I think just that one thing, like Denzel has been obviously a massive, massive disappointment. And we said last time we didn't want to like put it all on him. But I think if you had an elite level shooting guard, like this whole thing feels and looks completely different.
I mean, I don't. I'm to the point where like I just don't even know what to say about Denzel Aberdeen because like I don't think there's any growth to be had there. He's not giving you any leadership, nothing on the offensive end.
Took bad shots again.
And Jake, like if I told you the net points, second worst on the team, minus 8.4. We already mentioned his stop percentage of 0. Like I mean,
Yeah.
there's genuinely not a singular thing that he does well right now. Like there is nothing. Like he doesn't like even when Jalen has a bad game, and like I think he had a pretty poor game against Missouri yesterday. Even when he has a bad game, you can still look and point to things like, well, that offense doesn't get started right there without his penetration or him getting the ball out on the move.
Yeah. You don't
Denzel
go
does
up 8 without him.
not even good in transition either. Like there's genuinely not a point to his game, and it's almost to like I wish we probably would have done a deeper dive on what he was doing at Florida. But you hear like Golden talk about him. You hear about how he was an integral part of that team, and it's just like, what did you look at last year that you looked and saw like, oh, this is the guy that because it's obvious that they thought he was their starting shooting guard. I think that's obvious
Yeah.
because they're still doing it this far into the season and he's been this putrid.
Well,
What did
it's
you see
obvious.
there? Like I don't.
I Yeah, I don't know. And you know, and the thing with Denzel, like you just mentioned, like it obviously wasn't just Pope. We heard how upset Golden was when he left. I think it's just he came in feeling like he's the dude, and he's nowhere close to the dude. He probably shouldn't even be one of the dudes on the floor. But like he came in thinking he was, and you see it a lot of times, even like with his shot selection and like the way he carries himself on the floor. And I think, you know, he probably got as much money as anybody, maybe outside of Owe. And, you know, he thought he was coming here to kind of be the star. And it's just maybe they thought it was going to take a leap from Florida. Maybe Golden saw that as well. But like, I'm with you. I don't understand it. And to go back to like Diabate, like he's another guy. I just don't know. Like, I understand he's frustrated, and I understand like trying to be a leader and like yell, but like there's even times like, man, and I had this complaint with Denzel early in the year, like you're yelling at people for your mistakes. I mean, they
Yeah,
showed it after. I mean, he was that inbounds to Moreno was so bad. Like, in what world are you yelling at Moreno in that situation? You know, and I said the same thing. Denzel did it. You know, he would not switch or be late rotating over, and a guy would get a basket at the rim, and he's like sitting there screaming at Malachi, and it's like, dude, this is a true freshman that's playing as honestly well as
we
really
could have.
anybody on the team. Like I'm not saying last night, obviously, but just on your season in general, he's been really one of your maybe like two bright spots for the majority of the year. And I I'll take Moreno over like those two right now just because of the on the court yelling and the poor play. So I don't know. I feel like we're just gonna keep repeating ourselves, and unfortunately, we might do it for another 15 games this season. Because I'm with you. I don't see a world where this gets better. So I guess this is just what we're gonna do for the next 3 months.
It sounds awful. Thanks,
Yeah,
thanks,
it does. Yeah,
thanks
I
for
mean,
just saying like that. But like the thing with Muhammad is like there's some certain times like I'm not even sure what he's pissed off about.
yeah,
Like genuinely, like there's times where like, and you've heard it from like people who were at the games, like talking about how like, oh, Diabate's going after this person, this person. You're not good enough to like be that vocal of a leader. Like you're not performing at that level. And this is a guy who, like, don't get me wrong, like this is the guy who I was talking about at the beginning of the season, like hopefully taking a part of like that Amari Williams role just as like a smaller four. And like I still think he has that capability in him. But we obviously don't use him like that. And then like we tried to like that play that you're talking about with Malachi. Like we tried to use him in a spot like that, and you
Yeah,
just
that's a perfect example of maybe why you don't.
you completely blow it. Like you get an opportunity to show like why you deserve that, and you piss it down your leg. And then you get pissed off at the true freshman who's probably one of what, maybe three bright spots on this team so far this year.
Yeah, and
And you
who did
get
his job? He had the position. You missed him. You were late on it.
yeah. And
Like,
like don't get me wrong, Malachi towards the end of the game, you mentioned he had two turnovers, got beat out for that rebound. Like he had his points in this game where you're like, man. But it's also like, Jake, if I would have been telling you like this offense is running through Malachi Moreno and
yeah, that was my point. Like, yeah,
he
they
needs
executed.
he needs a defensive rebound to like seal a game like this late in or this early in the season, and Jaden Quaintance is fully healthy, and Brandon Garrison actually was playing somewhat decent in this game.
Yeah,
It's like what I would have
but
slapped you in the face and called you an idiot.
well, that was my point earlier when I said like, yeah, there was some poor execution, but it was by guys that I didn't think should have been in those situations. Like even Dan Bradshaw or whatever his name is, the announcer early in the game was talking about like Jaden Quaintance isn't a good rebounder. Like he is an elite rebounder. He can go up and high point a ball better than anybody in college basketball. And like you got him sitting on the bench. Even if you don't want him in for the offensive possession for whatever the reason would be, run him out there for the free throw. If they make both or miss, whatever, you call the timeout, and you had timeouts to do
And
that
you
in
were
that
doing it with other
situation.
guys. It's not like you were just
Yeah.
letting the five stay in the entire time. Like you were doing that with everyone else as well.
So like that's extremely frustrating. Back to like Mo and like him yelling, like it's always said, and I truly believe it. Like your leader's got to be your best player or maybe your second best player. Like it's got to be one of those guys because I mean, if you're Cam Williams and you're getting screamed at by Mo Diabate, you're like, dude, what the hell have you done to like get to this point? Like, I'll tell you the one guy that I didn't have a problem screaming, like when Owe lost his mind on Malachi for not boxing out. Like that one, I like. Okay, Owe's got 20 something this game. He's been by far your best player. Maybe you don't love him doing it in that situation because it is a true freshman, but like it was such a pivotal part of the game. Like it honestly, that one didn't really bother me. But when you got Mo Diabate that had multiple turnovers in the first half, had rebounds just fall out of his hands because he couldn't catch the basketball for whatever reason.
Yes, stone for hands. It's
And
ridiculous.
that's
It
what's so
happened so
crazy.
many times in this game that like I thought it was a joke. Like if you
Yeah.
somebody commented on one of our like posts, I don't remember what platform it was on. It was like, is there a chance like Mo's got money on some of these games? Like, dude, like that. It genuinely crossed my mind when I was like just like sitting there watching him like turn these balls over because like I
You've
don't
seen
know.
him play well too. I mean, he grabbed every rebound in the Indiana second half. Every
Yeah,
single one was going up
this
against
kid
three
has
guys and taking the ball
3
from them.
turnovers in 25 minutes, only grabs 2 rebounds in that same time. Like this guy who's supposed to be like a physical force. Like what? And then all this being said, and like we still can't get Jasper Johnson on the floor when we've
Yeah.
scored 68 points. Like, and I've told you this. Like, I'm not the biggest Jasper Johnson fan in the world. I don't think that ceiling is as high as a lot of Kentucky fans think. I know it's higher than Denzel Aberdeen's. I know it's higher than Colin Chandler's. I know it's higher than Mohamed Diabate's. And these guys are consistently running out there getting 15 to 30 minutes a game.
Yeah.
And like if you're Jasper Johnson or like Dennis, his dad, or I can't remember if he said it was his grandpa who was upset or his uncle or
Uncle. Yeah.
like you come off of that game where he doesn't get a shot attempt at Alabama and then he gets a DNP. Like when's the last time you think Jasper Johnson got a DNP? Like ever? You think he's ever been
No.
like in a situation where a coach's decision to not play?
Well, I thought it more so with JQ last night. I would have been like down the stretch of honestly your biggest game of the season, and like it sounds crazy to say that on a game on January 7th, but with everything that it meant to like have that guy on the bench there down the stretch. And it's not like you can argue that it was because of the injury or anything. Like hell, I'm gonna be a top 10 pick if I don't play again. I might as well just pack it up and head on home, and I'll see you guys on draft night. But it's unreal. I mean, the other thing is like we talk about all this, and we talk about like how these guys don't look like they care. Like there's still stuff that like again, like JQ could have been a top 10 pick and like probably not played all season. He came back to make sure he could play. You know, Lowe's playing through a shoulder injury. Like these guys, they want to be out there, but it's like the second the ball gets tipped, they all just hate each other and just want to scream at each other and like not do certain stuff. It just like it's the most baffling thing to me.
Yeah, and like I mean, baffling. I think is truly just a great word to like describe it because you like the best way I think I can just say it is just bad teams find a way to lose each and every week. Like they find new
Well,
ways. Like think about all those times we watched the
yeah,
Bengals. Like how many
yeah,
times do you see it's like, oh, missed field goal this week. Next week it's a pick six. The other week it's a punt return touchdown. Like we watch it with Kentucky football all the time. It's one week you get stopped at the one. Next week it's, two punt
yeah.
returns that get taken to the house on you. Bad teams find a way to lose and then they start finger pointing and then teams eventually give up. You've seen that with Kentucky so far this year. And the part that really irritates and frustrates me is that like we're sitting there and we're doing the defense for offense swaps during this game, and your best defensive presence, your only guy who can block shots for the most part,
Yep.
and the guy with the highest defensive rebounding rate you have. Now, granted, our offensive numbers while he's on the court have been putrid, and I will fully acknowledge that. We have not found a way in which to be able to score with Jaden Quayton's on the court. I don't know why that is. We haven't found a reason or a way to do that yet. But you're
But
talking
you're
to me
you're
like
not
down.
scoring a lot with him off the floor, real quick. I
Yeah,
don't want to cut you off. Like, go ahead.
exactly. But
But
that's
like,
also like that's to my point. Like, at what point do you look at it and you're like, oh, I have to have Brandon Garrison or Malachi Marino in this game because they offer me this on the offensive end that's so much greater than what the rebounding of Jaden Quayton's or shot blocking is. And it's just there's so many things that happened on the stretch of this game that are completely inexcusable from a coaching staff from top to bottom. And like I don't know if he's just thinking too much and he's like, but dude, it's just like let your best guys play when you need them to play. Like this is something we keep coming back to week in and week out. It's just when you need plays to be made, have your best players on the floor. And Jake, there's people that we know do not fit that bill. Denzel Aberdeen right now is one of them. Colin Chandler is one of them. Why are they on the floor in crucial minutes? Like those were two of the guys that were on the floor the most. Like there was spots where Jalen Lowe wasn't out there for offensive possessions. Like what in the world are you doing where the guy who sets your offense, creates your offense, isn't out there for an offensive set, but a guy who's got a 0% stop rate for the entire game is out there for defense? Like what
yeah,
is this coaching staff doing? What are they looking at while they're making these decisions? None of it makes sense. And the more I sit here and talk about it with you, like the more it just like it frustrates you and pisses you off because it's you and I can see this from 100 miles away. Like we can see this watching from the living room TVs. And I'm not saying we're smarter than Pope. This guy's almost a doctor. I am back in college now, and by God, my brain hurts. I wrote a paper earlier today, and I am still struggling to recoup from it. But man, sometimes too much information is like information paralysis, and it feels like that's where Pope's at now.
yeah. No, I agree with that assessment. And again, back to like the craziness of it is like again, I thought for 36 minutes outside of how bad they looked against the zone the first time they saw it, like I thought Pope coached a pretty good game. We saw the lineups we wanted outside of still probably too much Denzel, but like what did I tell you
8 minutes
Tuesday
still.
night? Like Tuesday night you asked me like, what's something that can maybe give you hope out of this game or like outside of just squeaking out a win, and I said I don't want to see Colin Chandler and Denzel Aberdeen on the floor together. I would prefer not to see either one of them, but like I especially don't want to see them playing together. And, Colin only played 5 minutes. He shrunk the lineup outside of, again, like Denzel playing too much. I think he did a pretty good job with the lineup. And it was just, I'm with you. I think he got that 8-point lead and just completely overthought it and thought 8-point lead, 4.5 minutes. I just got to, get a couple buckets and like we got this game won with a couple stops, and he just completely switched from what built you that 8-point lead, what got you going early in the second half. There was no urgency. There was no. I mean, I know you said like you didn't think Lowe played good, and I think when you consider the game as a whole, he didn't. But he looked so good when you let him go. I mean, those corner threes, Cam missed a couple, made one or two. Like, he was getting into the lane and getting the ball out, like, at will. And it was because you were letting him play the style he wanted to play. And then the second you went up 8, just everything changed and everything switched. And the only explanation to me is just that he just didn't want to play fast and, potentially cost them the game. I don't know. Like, I do think he overthought it. And, maybe I think there's a big part of him that's just overstressing about where this is going because he feels it. He feels the pressure. He obviously wants it to work as much as anybody. He knows what this place means. He knows when you're a successful coach at Kentucky, like what it brings to you. He wants it to work as much because I do think he is a fan of it as well. He's one of us. But, like, I think it's just getting in his head of all this built up pressure. You see him. I mean, you saw it, with the Louisville game. You saw it with Michigan State. Like, he just doesn't look like the guy he was last year. And I think it's because he slowly started to realize, like, this team isn't what I thought it was. And then next thing you know, you're 9-5 playing Missouri on a Wednesday night, knowing that you almost have to have a win, and you just panicked and didn't get to that point.
Yeah, and Jake, sorry, while you were saying that, man, I got sidetracked. I'm trying to check the score of the women's game. Dude, I mean,
Not good either. I don't
I
have it.
I can't catch a break right now. They're down 20 in Tuscaloosa to an unranked Alabama team. Now, granted, why a 15-1 SEC women's team is unranked at this point in
Yeah,
the
maybe
season,
they're good.
I'm not sure, but that's not what I wanted to see when I checked my phone. But I mean, and a lot of this is like you talk about like why everything is so negative. It's not because like a lot of people think this is going to be a 1-year blip, but it's
Yeah.
a lot of what we were told was second year in Pope's system, everyone takes a jump, right?
Yep.
Like
Oh yeah.
I think you can make that case for Ortega. I do think
I think
Ortega.
it's been good,
I think
especially after the last like the first few games of the season. He was obviously bad. I think
Mhm.
during this stretch, he's been really good.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I think you can make the case that he's gotten better like, since coming back.
Or at least as good as he was last year.
Yeah. Colin Chandler, I can't make that for you.
Nope.
Trent Noah cannot make that for you. Brandon
He's not even seeing the floor either.
Brandon Garrison's probably gotten worse in those minutes. And then it's like everybody else that you're going to be bringing back, you're obviously like Ortega's not going to be back. Denzel's not going to be back. Thank the Lord. If he dude, I'm telling you right now, Jake, if there's a way in which this guy finds another way to get another year eligibility,
he hops on the Pavia train.
I'm telling you right now, if it's back in blue and white for Kentucky, you're going to be doing this with somebody else. It's not going to be me. You and Tyler are going to have to cover this. But then it's like, does a guy like Jasper Johnson want to come back after getting DNP'd? Like, do you think that's I mean, this guy could go almost anywhere he wanted to. Cam Williams, while I love the ability that I think he has, I don't think that's a guy you're like, yes, great, glad to have him back. Same thing with Yelovich. You don't feel good about Colin Chandler or Trent Noah coming back.
I can't imagine Yelovich is on this roster next year.
No, yeah. I'm there exactly. I mean, like the only
I'd say there's 0%.
Like, who are you? What's the bright spot for coming back next year? Maybe a jump from Malachi Moreno. He gets a little bit more physical, puts on some weight over the offseason. You got Mo coming back. Maybe Braden Hawthorne just is like Tayshaun Prince. Like, what is that? What we're leaning on? It's.
I mean, if you ask me next year, if you ask me for next year, like who do I want back on this team? I honestly like it's Jalen Lowe. I still think if you give Cam Williams enough run, he's going to prove that he's a good player. So him, Cam Williams, and I would like Malachi to come back, but I can't blame Malachi if he's like, this is the most miserable experience of my life. I'm going out there and
Dude,
playing
he's
hard,
still
playing with heart, and
he's
I'm getting
pressing.
screamed. I'm getting screamed at by 8 people, including the bench, left
Yeah.
and right for every little thing. So, I could see him being like, I ain't sticking around here.
And the thing is, like, if I ask you, like, who do you want to go up there and make a speech for this team? It's Malachi Moreno. Like, he's the only one that seems like he's been like PR trained and like doesn't fully throw his teammates under the bus game in
Yeah.
and game out. He's the one that's like it seems is always getting shit on by somebody.
And he's
Somebody's
18
always
years
got
old. Like
yeah, and this
he's the young kid, and
yeah, and nobody's taking him under his wing like at all. Like
yeah,
Brandon Garrison, I will give Brandon credit in which he was horrendous earlier in the year. He's actually come back to, I think, giving you those same minutes that he did last year, where he can come and he can make splash plays and stuff like that. Now, granted, he's not a
he
good
still
leader.
likes PG time.
Yeah,
I
still
mean,
loves PG time.
he was quick to post that on Instagram after the game.
He was. And then you're talking about Jaden Quaintance. Like, I don't even, is Jaden older than Malachi? Like, he genuinely might be. Like,
They might be the same age. I don't know.
well, I know they're both 18, but I'm saying, like, when you're just talking about, like, calendars, I don't,
I don't know. But
you're
like, yeah,
thinking,
that's
and also, like, I know we're going in so many different spots right now, and I'm trying to like rein it in here. But in what world did you need Reese Potter, Malachi Moreno, Jaden Quaintance, Yelovich,
Yelovich.
Brandon
You didn't,
Garrison?
and
Like you didn't need 5 of these guys, and
I think that was the mistake.
especially like Andrea Yelovich of all of them. If you had, I think he made it very clear early in the season he had no intention of truly giving Yelovich a shot to get minutes in this rotation. Why did you bring him in? Why did you not use that same money or same, even just roster spot on maybe a guy in which you think, maybe we can just develop him, get a shooter? Because you mentioned it. Like, how much would you love to just have a shooting guard right now? A guard that can just go out there and, like, I would kill to have Ansley Elmore back in blue and white right now.
Yeah,
I would kill to have that. And that's a guy that Kentucky fans were making fun of most of last year. Like that he was generally like a punchline for a lot of Kentucky fans. Like, oh, this guy can do it. The guy was a part of the 50-40-90 club, Jake.
yeah,
Do you know how hard that is to do? Like, I don't care. Like, and he was solid minutes. He had some of those games where he put up the 0-0 and 0.
yep.
But imagine having him on this team. Like, I'd trade him for
Same.
Mohamed Diabate on this one. No question about it. Like having that switch right now. All said, poor roster construction, poor
Yep.
coaching, poor leadership from your veterans. Right now, it's Ortega and Jalen, and then it's usually like a third guy that steps up for one game. And it's just, can we ever get that third guy to be consistent? And Mark Pope, please, like take a page. And I know this is a bad time to say it while they're losing by 23. Please take a page out of Kenny Brooks' book. That's a lot harder to say than I thought it was.
Say it 3 times fast.
Yeah, take a page out of his, man. I mean, this guy plays 6 girls, 7 girls. Like he knows what's going to work and what's not.
And I felt like we were getting to that point until 2 minutes to go in the game. Like that's the craziest part.
If you're going to lose, you might as well like be. These are the guys who bust their ass day in, day out. These are the guys who give it all to me. Because right now this ain't working. And if I read one more comment on why Trent Noah isn't playing, Jake, I'm throwing this Mac through a window. I'm throwing this Mac through a window. I'm telling you that right now.
I mean, I agree, but like, hell, how much worse can it be? Honestly,
At this
like,
point, dude,
I'm perfectly fine with him not playing. Don't get me wrong, but like, I don't know. Like,
you're getting dangerously close to like burning that Braden Hawthorne redshirt.
could be. I mean, I don't know. You said like they need a third guy to consistently step up. I think if he plays consistent minutes, it can be Cam Williams. I mean, we've seen him I mean, all the way back to the Louisville game, we talked about it. Like, you don't play him all game. He comes in with, 10 minutes left in the second half or whatever it was. I don't remember off the top of my head. And, hits a three and gives you a ton of energy on the defensive side. I think, like, he could be that guy. But to your point, you got to trust him and you got to leave him out there. I don't understand where, like, his short leash comes from. It's like another kind of Cal thing. I mean, guys just get in
It
a
drives me.
doghouse and a a short leash. So I don't know. And you mentioned Yelovich, like, again, like that's just a ticket that's just not going to get punched this year. Like, that dude's going to play somewhere else next year. There's zero chance that it ever kind of comes to fruition for him. And that could be like all behind the stuff, practice stuff. I mean, Jack Pilgrim says, like, pretty much all the time in practice he sees him having to run the stairs. So, but I don't know. It might be time to get Mo running those stairs too, because he was going at
Yeah,
everybody, and I think that played into him not playing and down the stretch. But I don't know, man. Unless you start benching some of these guys that just aren't playing well, and not just not playing well, not being bad teammates. I don't see it getting better.
that's where we are, man. Just I don't know a way out. I don't know a way it gets better because you mentioned a guy who you think has that upside goes out and hits 8 threes against Bellarmine and then barely plays
Yeah,
the very next game. In which I know we talked about it a lot in that Alabama game, but talk about length, athleticism, the ability to close out on perimeter shots, the ability to get traffic rebounds. That's Cam Williams. That's
he's
what you want.
still the guy that, like, outside of JQ that you think can play in the NBA. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, people say, like, this team outside of JQ has zero NBA players, and, like, yeah, it might look like that, but, like, there's a real world, like, after next season, like, Cam Williams is playing in a G League on a two-way contract. Like, he is built for the NBA game.
yeah. I mean, nobody. I mean, unless your name is like Jamal Crawford, is nobody's good just like randomly coming off the bench and just like in sparing minutes. Jake, think about it in baseball. Like pinch
Yeah.
hitters, how often are you great just coming off the bench? The only person I can think of, and this is an obscure red, Jake. I mean, Chris Heisey. That was about it. That was the only thing he brought. He was a great pinch. I
Come
don't
in
think.
and launch one. I didn't
Yeah,
expect a Chris Heisey shout out here on the Cats Talk podcast the
exactly.
day after a embarrassing Missouri loss, but hey, I'll take it.
It's it's so maddening because it's just like I feel like there might not be like A+ answers to this test, but it feels like there are passing answers, and he refuses to just like consistently go with that for
Yeah.
whatever reason. And it's really got me questioning like it has me basically going back to the day Pope was hired. It really does. Like that first initial reaction of me being like, was he that good at BYU?
Yeah.
I don't remember
No,
BYU being
I'm
that
with
good.
you.
And like going back and looking and being like, yeah, I'm not really. And granted, we're fans. So the first thing that we do from this is like look for the positives immediately after he gets hired. We look for all this. We see Big Blue Nation turn out and just that like positivity of the fan base coming together of like one of their own. I think bought us a good amount of that time where we kind of just were numb to the fact that he did not have the qualifications for the job in the slightest.
Eh, He didn't, and, like, I get it. There's, you know, you got to remember, obviously, when he got hired for the bigger picture of, whether it was the president's decision or the AD's decision. A lot of people actually say it was probably Capilouto, but, like, being told pretty much no to Oates, Pearl, anybody
Which
that had any type of
success
NCAA or personal, think about, like, if you're saying no to NCAA violations, which I don't even understand, everything that all these coaches have been in trouble for is now legal.
yeah.
But, like, I mean, that takes, obviously, Chris Beard, Will Wade, Bruce Pearl off your
But the
list, and then yeah, but like, so I mean, that's something like too. Like, we're gonna obviously criticize Barnhart, and I think rightfully so. We spent a lot during football season talking about Barnhart and the mistakes he made. I think you got to give some criticism there to the president as well, because again, all this stuff's legal now. Everything Will Wade did is perfectly legal. I can understand if you say, based on some of the stuff that happened in Alabama, morally you don't want to go the Nate Oates route. I probably disagree with you, but it doesn't seem like he's maybe the best guy, and maybe had a little something to do with making sure Brandon Miller didn't miss any time after that
no,
horrific situation. So I mean, I can understand that one if you want to pull yourself out of that. And then you're obviously told no by Hurley and Scott Drew. So again, I don't think Mark Pope is maybe built for the Kentucky job. I obviously feel as bad as I've ever have, and back to my initial reaction when he got hired. But when you step back and look at it, and it was Shaka Smart or Mark Pope, I understand how you fell on this side of the aisle. But like, let me ask you, like, even if, let's say, things do go to hell this year and you decide you want to move on either this year or next year, like, until this JMI thing gets figured out, like, are any elite level coaches going to want to come here? Like,
well, I mean,
I don't know, but
I've got to
I
believe
mean,
like
that's
they'll get.
probably an off season conversation, but
I mean, short. I'll say it like short. Like I got to believe they'll get that figured out. Like I think you're
I would
kind of
hope so.
seeing. I think you're seeing the football program kind of get it figured out with having like a GM in place and an assistant GM. You're seeing them. I know it's different. You have a lot more guys that you have to bring in, stuff like that. But I think you're
Well,
seeing them start to work towards it as well.
the biggest thing is, like, you don't have Christian Collins come here because he has a deal signed with Crocs. Like, football players aren't going out and signing other deals, really, honestly, outside of probably the money they're given, because we're not getting a, you know, 5-star quarterback, number one prospect out of high school. Like, those are the only guys that are really doing it. But like in basketball, we want to get those guys. And you're not going to let Christian Collins come here and sign your deal because he's got a deal with Crocs. Like, I don't know. Like, I can understand it if he's got like a deal with Adidas and it's like a rival shoe company. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. It's a mess. So they're going to have to figure it out. They're going to have to get past it. Otherwise, you're going to continue just to end up with, senior transfer portal players that really don't have any aspirations of playing in the NBA, and they're kind of coming here as their last hurrah. And like, it obviously worked last year. You were able to get some solid players, but again, like we talked about, you were still not getting elite level talent that could take you to a Final Four or national championship.
Jake, I think you summed it up best, and it's probably just how we're going to end this episode. We're going on an hour here of you and I
I'm not even
just.
talking about Mississippi State. Who cares? Turn it on at
You know,
8:30. See what
we're not.
happens.
We're not.
Like, that's how I feel. Turn it on at 8:30. They
Worst
will.
games in the SEC. If they don't win this game at home, you have a I don't know if you have a complete other conversation. We just do all this with
Again.
maybe real
Yeah.
tears.
Yeah.
There
We'll
might be
we'll
real
talk.
tears.
We'll talk again on Monday, and we'll just have this conversation again.
Yep,
Hey, I
Jake,
will say,
it's a mess.
if anybody out there is as depressed as myself and Cam, well, I'm going to Dickman Saturday night I'm going to try to rally the troops, change the vibes, drink a couple pitchers, and hopefully maybe we can get this thing back on track. But I don't feel optimistic. It might be a sad drinking night.
And no drinking for me, Jake. I will be the DD for you here. But I'm telling you, man, it's a mess down in Lexington right now. Portal, transfer portal. That's all I got. I refreshed this X
Sign
feed
time, baby.
about 1,000 times, and I do want to just give a special shout out to one individual. Actually, two. Give it to two. The little dog and Hardly Gilmore. Hardly, the amount of shit I have heard you talk about the University of Louisville is ridiculous for you to go put on that red, white, and black.
Don't
And for
forget,
that,
the little dog did it too before. Hang on, real quick before we leave. I got to ask you: did you see Will Stein's press conference today?
dude, he looked like he was about to fall
He
asleep.
looked like like
He's
that
putting the
man
hours
is
in.
working. That man is working.
Dude,
He
he's
he
the
looked
hours.
like a corpse up there trying to talk about their game plan. So I mean, I bet he is. Game planning, recruiting, hiring, filling out your staff. I mean, it's. I don't. I guess I kind of want to see them lose tomorrow, so we don't have to deal with this for another week. Like, let's get the man some rest. Let's get him in a nice Tempur-Pedic bed here in Lexington,
Him in a
and let him
Lexington
go to work.
house where he can just not. He doesn't have to fly in to go to his office. Let's get all this in there. Jake, who would
Let's
have
get him
thought
here.
second game SEC play, we'd be like, all right, let's go football season and transfer portal. That's what we're looking forward to. But either way, we're going to have you covered here on the Cats Talk podcast. We're going to have a football podcast coming here for you. Jake, hopefully guys like DeAndre Moore, Malcolm Simmons, we start to get some of those big receiver targets with all these guys starting to hit the transfer portal like Cam Miller and Hardly Gilmore, sayonara fellas. But Jake, we'll have you covered on the Cats Talk podcast. So make sure to follow us on X. I threw some shade at some people earlier on X. I know Jake loves doing it too. Dan Dockich, especially, he loves to throw that clown under the bus. So follow us on X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever you get your media content. We're there.
Join us for all your basketball misery.
All of it. And football. If you guys are Reds fans, Bengals fans, we're in that misery boat too, Jake. It has not been the end of 2025 we wanted, and sure not have been the start of 2026 as the women have just fallen to Alabama as well. I need to get out of here because I got to go shed some tears. So Big Blue Nation, obviously you got the game Saturday night at 8:30. If the Cats don't win that one, I don't know if you'll see Jacob Araya again. But go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue.